Obeidallah show. We're live here Monday, March 10th. Joining us now, in between working nonstop, Jessica Denson, host of Lights On with Jessica Denson, recently led a 14th Now protest, but a big protest this Friday in D.C. called Now DC. It's going to be big. It's going to be huge. Jessica, nice to see you. How's everything going?
It's nonstop, but good, all things considered. Great to see you too, Dean.
Good to see you. So tell us about this. You're going to do a big protest Friday. What's the name of it, and what's the goal?
Congratulations for getting all of our names right. I really appreciate it. It's been taken on a
Sure.
life of its own. So there's a lot of different names out there, but it is called Now DC. You are 100% right there. This is an outgrowth of the 14th Now movement, which your viewers know Trump is a constitutionally disqualified illegal president. That was our pitch to Congress back in early January. And with all of this amazing protest activity going on across the country, we came to the conclusion that we really had to do this again. And if you're looking for your DC only major national march, this is it. 314 is the date, Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. We took those numbers. It's kind of very symbolic in that way. And we also have veterans. This has been designated as a veterans march too. So we've got
Oh.
amazing allies in the veteran and union communities joining us. Also been designated as a national strike day. So 314 is going to be a day for the history books in Washington, D.C. on the National Mall. Dean, this is when we, the people, have to show up en masse and claim unequivocally the power that we hold and be clear about what needs to happen with our government. And that's Donald Trump getting out of power.
So what are the other organizations involved? So people have a sense too, because I saw that 50501,
Yeah.
501. Is that,
Yeah,
I've talked about
5051.
that
They're the
organization before.
ones, if you
5051, yeah.
if you remember about a month ago, the first 50 state protest, this is another grassroots like us. I mean, we're not a
Mhm.
501c. We're just citizens who saw what was happening and realized we had to do something about it. 5051, same kind of thing, like decentralized group of people who have been popping up all over the country. The 5051 DC chapter has been wonderful, and they're in affiliation with us, really helping us spread the word and make sure this gets pulled off. So we're in affiliation with them. We're bringing more and more people on board, literally as minutes and hours pass. We have some wonderful speakers. John Bonifaz, who I know has been on your show, for
Sure.
free
I like
speech.
John.
Yeah, he's an amazing guy. Free speech for people, president, constitutional scholar. He'll be speaking. We've got Rolling Stones writers, veterans who will be speaking. A number of veterans, authoritarian experts, myself, some of our co-organizers who are faith leaders. A lot of amazing speakers are going to be joining us.
So what time? Can you give people
Yeah.
logistics? The website's nowmarch.org, right? But
Nowmarch.org. Yeah, it is. And we will be convening at noon on the National Mall between 4th and 6th Streets Northwest. This is about 2 blocks west of the Capitol. And you can go to nowmarch.org and sign up there. If you do, it really helps us just to get a better sense of the numbers. Although I will be honest with you, Dean, this time we are expecting thousands of people. If you can donate, there is a donate button there. This is an
ah,
extremely expensive venture. Last time we were kind of in the opposite situation. We didn't have the numbers showing up in the freezing cold, but we had a lot of money. This time we're a little bit in the opposite situation where we know we're getting thousands of people, but we still have to raise a lot of money to cover all the expenses. So you can help us there too.
I will email George Soros after
Thank you.
this and ask him for
Appreciate
my
it.
weekly check to be sent to you instead of giving it to all the people going to the protests. Boy, oh boy, George Soros is one of the most powerful people in the world, according to the right.
Amazing.
So that's very exciting. So this Friday, folks, in DC, if you're in the DC area, it's nowmarch.org. And you guys are going to storm the White House. Is that how it ends? The kind of like a January 6th, but a March 14th type of thing? No, I'm kidding. There's not going to be
I
a
know you're
storming of the White
kidding,
House.
but you know what? This is going to be an unofficial Dean Obeidallah exclusive. We have an alternative location secured by permit also near the White House. So please stay tuned. That's another incentive to sign
Hmm.
up at nowmarch.org. Later in the week, we'll be announcing that alternative location because we do want to be, you look at the website, it says we're encircling the institutions of power, and that really is our intention, peacefully, of course. And that's what we're going to do on Friday.
And what you should make an offer to Trump. Like, if you leave peacefully now, you can keep Air Force One for like a year
Oh
and we'll
my
give
God.
you all the free fuel. Like, there's got to be, like, I would offer something. Why not at this point? Like, even just for press purposes, that's fun. Like, I'm not saying that's the winner, but if you think of some things, like if Donald Trump leaves now, we'll give him 1 month supply of all the cheeseburgers he wants and Diet Coke, and we will ship it to any kind of location. He'll be in. I think he'll be in Saudi. I think he seeks refugee status, or asylum in Saudi when this is over. I really do, because this
Yeah,
is
I mean, love. How
this
about
is
love? Love for the first time in his life, Dean. This man has never known love. He has one sad,
So in Saudi, he'll know love. I've been to Saudi a few times. I'm not sure he'll know love.
I'm
I
saying
have performed.
I'm saying the love that comes with like being honest with yourself, like not living a
Oh,
lie. Like what a miserable
right.
existence for the first time in his life. This guy, I mean, he could get the Nobel Peace Prize genuinely for resigning. For the whole, the free world would be cheering in the streets. This guy could be a international hero for the history books. Instead, he's turning into Hitler. So those are the two choices, Donald.
Right. And before you came on, I mentioned I watched over the weekend, because this is what I do, a great documentary miniseries on Netflix about the Nuremberg trials.
Yeah.
And I really feel like that's where there's a potential. I mean, Hitler had to lose the war. So if Trump loses, perhaps there's a tribunal situation. And it wouldn't just be Trump. I really think it would be some of the people like Stephen Miller and maybe Marco
Yes.
Rubio.
Marco
That's what happened
Rubio.
with Hitler, who
Yeah.
was in who were in the Hitler Nuremberg trials, included his foreign minister and others. That's who goes up. And one of his top generals, of course. So
Yeah,
I
I'm glad
really,
you mentioned
I
that.
hope it
I
doesn't get
had,
there.
yeah, 100%. I had Timothy Ryback, author of Hitler's Final Rise to Power and author of the recent piece in The Atlantic, How Hitler Dismantled a Democracy in 53 Days. He was actually on my show last week. We had a bad connection, so we're
Wow.
redoing it on Wednesday. But this is, yeah, he had those lessons, exactly what you're talking about right now, Dean. The people that suckered up to him, the people like Marco Rubio, who we thought was, yeah, he
Hmm.
was right wing. He was all the reasons we don't like the Republican Party, but at least we thought he had a semblance of sanity and knowing who's on the right side of, the free world or not. And this guy, you, Marco Rubio, my friend, are going to be like the Nuremberg enablers of Hitler in the end if you don't break now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, Rubio said today the only way there could be a peace deal, Ukraine's got to accept they're going to have to give up land. Why would you say that before the negotiations begin? Why would you even say that publicly, except for you're touting the Putin line? And this is outrageous to me. I'm trying to, Jessica Denson. So, Jessica, so again, this Friday, DC, if you're in the area, go to the march. It sounds like a great event, and thousands will be there, and you'll have to tell us about it afterwards. So, let's talk a little bit about Trump. Tomorrow, or is it today? It could be tonight. It could be tomorrow. 50 days of Trump, the longest 50 days of my life. Trump has aged the crap out of me. And when you look back now, there's so much there. Anything really stand out? Like one or two things that maybe didn't get the press coverage they deserve? Like certain things that you're like, this is really so deeply concerning.
Everything, Dean. Everything is deeply concerning. I mean, day one, he pardoned several individuals convicted of seditious conspiracy. That is an act of treason. Like you say it all the time,
Mhm.
this guy's a traitor. He's committed treason. Like, thank you, Dean,
Traitor.
thank you
Yep.
for your clarity on a daily basis on this issue.
I
Also,
know.
he signed, I think, on day one, an executive order that asks Pete Hegseth and Kristi Noem to get back to him about invoking the Insurrection Act of 1807. I think we're somewhere around 38, don't quote me exactly on it, but just over a month left on his timeline to hear back from those lunatics on how he can invoke the Insurrection Act. So
Hmm.
there's a few things. I mean the whole Elon Musk, hackers and treasury with access to every single one of our bank accounts is insane. And judges partially are pushing back, but it's really scary to me, Dean, when you see judges saying, "Oh, I don't see a chance of irreparable harm here. I don't need to put in a temporary restraining order to keep Dodgy from accessing a Social Security payment." Like, are you serious? So it's everything. It's everything.
There's a lot going on. And before you came on, we were talking about the arrest and attempted deportation of Mahmoud Khalil, who not charged with any crime because they have no evidence. It's his DOJ. I keep making the point to people. If he had committed any crimes, they're like, he support Hamas. And so he provided material support, but you didn't charge him with that. Why would you not charge him? Because there's no evidence of it. Oh, he incited violence. Well, then you would charge him, right? Inciting violence, inciting a riot is a crime. Nope, didn't charge him because there's no evidence. His DOJ could instantly go to a grand jury and indict them in like a ham sandwich. They could do it in a half hour, an hour. They have nothing. They're just trying to make examples like Putin does now. And before you came on, I read something from the Atlantic Council about how Putin does these shows of very visible people to prosecute, and then the goal is self-censorship with for countless and millions of others. That's what Trump is doing
Yes.
right now here.
Yes.
And that's what this is about.
Yes, absolutely. And people need to recognize it for that chilling effect. Can I ask you, Dean, since I have been on phone calls, do we know the whereabouts of Khalil yet, or where is his
He's
whereabouts?
in Louisiana, and a short time ago, a judge put a temporary restraining order on actually deporting him, but he does have a green card. It's not like
Yeah.
he's visiting or a student visa. He's got a green card, so he has certain rights. So it was going to go to court ultimately. So the judge now put a temporary restraining order. The fact they moved him to Pennsylvania to Louisiana is
Louisiana.
that so his 8 month pregnant wife can't fly down there to see him. Like it's just cruelty, and this is what Trump is about. And you could support Israel all day, but you still have to support our First Amendment. And
Well,
because
you
you
know
don't
what?
like someone
This is
critical
a
of
sick.
Israel,
Yeah, I mean, this is
right?
the
Go ahead.
thing about it. I mean, literally, we were talking about Hitler a few minutes ago. This is why the whole Israel thing has always driven me crazy because this is not this. Sorry, this is not about Jews and Muslims. This is about dictators, and they did it
Right.
to the Jews. In the with the pretext that they use in the 30s and 40s, and they now using the same playbook try to do it in defense of the Jews. We know that Donald Trump is an anti-Semite in reality, that
Right.
he dines with anti-Semites, and yet he has an executive order out to try to use the pretext of terrorism to stifle, to really, like you said, have that chilling effect to make people afraid. It's really a
Mhm.
sick construct. So yeah, absolutely. One thing absolutely show support for Khalil and his family. I hope he has the absolute best legal help possible. The other thing we have to be really careful about, Dean, is not letting that chilling effect take root, not being afraid. You know, one of the sayings that I think about a lot these days is everything you want is on the other side of fear. Like we cannot be afraid. We
Right.
cannot be afraid.
Absolutely. It's so vitally important. And according to the Homeland Security spokesperson, they said that the reason he was being uh, arrested and deported is that he violated Donald Trump's executive order prohibiting anti-Semitism, and that his actions were, quote, aligned to Hamas, not supporting Hamas, aligned Hamas. And so Hamas called for food to be released into Gaza. So if you call for food, or if you call for end of a blockade, or if you call for self-determination for the Palestinian people, like Hamas does, then you're aligned to Hamas. And I wonder if all the progressive, great Jewish students who led so many protests, now are they aligned to Hamas? Will they be potentially prosecuted, arrested if they're students, if they're from other countries, for being anti-Semitic? I mean, the idea that a president can set the terms of what is permissible speech or not an act of Congress, not a law in any way, should deeply trouble people because it's not going to end there. That was my point earlier in the show. This is not about the Middle East. This is about the United States of America. What kind of freedoms do we want as a nation going forward? And if you're going to allow a president to say by edict, this is speech is banned, and I'm going to prosecute you if you use this speech, that is deeply alarming because Trump is the most of all the people. You know, this guy is the last one should be doing that, and he's concerned about terrorism when he is, in fact, inside the January 6th terrorist attack and then pardon the terrorists afterwards. So it's a challenging time. There's a lot going on. I'm chatting with Jessica Denson about a lot going on. So, by the way, you mentioned Tesla. There have been protests now the last few weeks. Take down Tesla. And I think it's working because the stock
I
dropped
love
like
it.
40
I love
points
it.
today. And I feel bad for shareholders if you were like a good faith investor and you thought it was a good car years ago and you have it, you were going to make money. Now it's down to below what it was before the election. Elon Musk is very upset. But, you know, we saw, look, the Tesla dealership protest, Ukraine, the hugest Ukraine flag in the world in D.C. this weekend.
Yeah,
We
amazing.
had protests against J.D. Vance when he went skiing in Vermont. I really see, perhaps it's the warm weather, people waking up, that they're coming out more.
Yeah, oh, they're everywhere. It is absolutely beautiful, Dean. And by the way, not only have people been out everywhere, but there's been very minor counter protesting, if any. Like I've barely seen that anywhere. That shows you where the real sentiment is in this country. Like there's obviously no mandate, no landslide. You and I have had honest conversations about even the possibility, real possibility that Donald Trump did not win this election fairly. So,
Hmm.
the sentiment is with the people on the pro-democracy side. The masses are with us. And, if we can just remind ourselves of that every time, and you see that reflected in these literally daily, I mean, I'm on a Signal chat with the 5051 DC people, with other organizers. I mean, it is incessant notices of protests, pop-up protests. They're there for everything. I think if anything is going to give you hope right now, look around yourself, look at each other, look at what we the people are doing to stand up and not be afraid. It's really beautiful.
With your show, with Lights On with Jessica Denson, which I've been on, which was a very nice show, you have people interact with you. Like, what are you hearing from them? I'm always curious about the grassroots of the Democrats all the time. That's why I love speaking to people who call in. What do you hear in terms of issues that they want championed? What more they want to see from Democratic Party leadership?
Great question, Dean. Great question. Here's what they want. They want Donald Trump removed from power,
Hmm.
and they want all Democrats to get on board with Al Green. It's pretty simple. Al Green,
On board Al
is
Green.
Al Green is the Democratic platform, folks. You want to raise
Right.
money, you want any hope of winning another election, join Al Green, caucus-wide effort for impeachment, and any constitutional means to get this guy out of power. Period.
That's what they want.
That's
So,
what they want.
and but Hakeem Jeffries, and I'm not, look, this is just the truth. I don't want, I really am very conscious of not trying to make my show about going at Democratic leadership a lot because I don't want to dampen enthusiasm. The leadership comes from us. They're going to do what we say ultimately. And I keep saying Republican elected officials fear their base. Democratic elected officials generally ignore us. At best, they tolerate us. And there's a few that listen to us, but most of them really don't. But Hakeem Jeffries was on a call with Democratic leaders this week and said he's got Republicans, quote, on the run. I'm not kidding, folks. And he said they were on the run in terms of the economy. And so he said this with Democratic leaders. I'm like, you have Republicans on the run. I'm like, how come? Where do you see them on the run? Like, because we don't see that. So what are we missing? Like, what is going on that Hakeem Jeffries, in good faith, thinks they've got Republicans on the run when Hakeem Jeffries calls in Democrats like Jasmine Crockett and says, "Don't interrupt a speech again," like the Trump speech.
Mm. So many levels there. Hakeem Jeffries, Jasmine Crockett. So listen,
Right.
I'm a fan. Hakeem Jeffries, I don't know, dude. Like, you are seriously out of touch. Go back to your spiritual source, because I know he has one, and I've loved him for that so many times. But truth is quick and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword, and that's what we need right now. And nothing short of that is going to cut it. You can't fool us. They don't have to take it from us, Dean. Like, the people
Right.
can see where action is and where it's not. They see where, soul and courage and the action that's needed is, and when it's just talk. And even, I'm glad you mentioned Jasmine Crockett, because I love her. She's been on my show several times. What Jasmine
Wow.
Crockett
Cool.
is doing right now, and what AOC and frankly Bernie Sanders, Chris Murphy, I could go on and on, what they're doing is not enough. It's not enough. Giving the speeches, the outrage speeches, is not enough. You and I both know that they collectively as a caucus violated their oaths on January 6th when they certified this election. They have to have action to meet their talk. And so far, there is one person who I have seen come forward with action. There is one person who was escorted out of the State of the Union. That's Al Green. They could have collectively as a caucus protested that. Imagine if they had all stood behind him and walked out with him. What a statement
I
they
know.
made.
That's what we wanted. Like, if all
Yeah.
Democrats walked out with him and then walked right to the press and made the case about they're there to protect Medicaid and Social Security and Medicare the same way Al Green did, that would have been. And Al Green got so much press on those issues because he went right to the press. Very smart. Left the
Yeah.
chamber, walked to the press, and talked to them, and they covered it.
Yeah.
And so, you look, that's a frustration we all have with Democratic leadership. I guess some people are just not suited for the time we're in. I mean, they told us Donald Trump was a fascist and a threat to democracy. And afterwards, like, let's find common ground. I'm like, you can't do that because we know he's a fascist. You were right. You can't play these games. So the one thing I'll say is Bernie's having these rallies across the nation
Yeah.
where he's getting, like, I just saw pictures, 4,000 people
Yeah.
a day or two ago. And national corporate media is again ignoring Bernie. And I don't know. I get a sense why, because executives don't want someone who's arguably a socialist getting more traction. But Bernie, that should be getting so much more press. He's packing out places all over the Midwest, like in the middle of the country. Any
Yeah.
sense why the media won't cover this?
Well, I mean, it's like a massacre going on in the media. I mean, I'm sure you talked about what happened at MSNBC just a few weeks ago. I mean, this is all over.
My friend
This
Joy.
isn't
Yeah.
the so-called progressive space. I mean, the only person who I have seen cover the protests in with any kind of regularity is Rachel Maddow. You know, she'll talk about what's going on, but they generally have been ignoring the presence and power of the people. And I'll put a shout out on the show. We are officially taking ownership of 314. A friend of ours, Cliff Cash, great comedian, political commentator, is organizing more protests over the weekend. So if you're in DC, stay over the weekend. He's got a media protest on
Hmm.
March 15th outside. If you know DC well, you know that Fox News and MSNBC are right there, block or two from the Capitol. Right up the street from there is CNN. I worked at all three of these,
Right.
not Fox, but the other two in college. They're all right there at the Capitol, and this is like an in your face. Like, are you going to ignore us now? We're right here in your faces. You got to cover the people showing up. And same thing for Bernie. Like, where is the coverage? Well, we're not gonna let them forget about
It,
it.
what's vitally important is now the rise of independent media has really taken hold in ways that years ago it would have been like, oh, that's kind of cute what people are doing. Now it's become a primary source of news for many people. And you can see the ratings for CNN are abysmal.
Yeah.
And MS, they came back a little, but they still have shrunk since before the election. But people are tuning in to shows like yours, other things out there online where they it's about trusting the source. That's what I see more and more when I get nice emails from readers in my Substack. They'll say, oh, I trust you. I'm like, you shouldn't trust me. But no, I'm like, no, but I'm like, I will always give you the facts. The
Yeah.
opinion is the opinion. I hope you get that my opinion is my opinion. That's life. I'm
Right.
an opinion writer, but all the facts are accurate. And I always put a lot of links because I want people to click on it,
Yep.
the facts, and see that they're real. Just like when I was a lawyer, I couldn't go to court and make up my facts. I had to argue based on the facts I had and make the best argument I can. So I think that's important. And that's why I saw, your thing has grown. Richard Ojeda was just on a few days ago. Now he's running for Congress, but he was just
Yeah.
saying he's had a real big spike recently in people
Nice.
viewing him. And they like his feistiness and they like he
Yep.
tells the truth. So last thing is, this Friday, government might shut down. It probably won't, but
That too. Oh,
the
just that. No big deal.
I know on Friday you're going to be there on Capitol Hill. There'll be a lot of media. Think about it
Yeah.
by Capitol Hill Friday.
Yep.
So Republicans in the House drafted their own stopgap budget deal. They didn't bring the Democrats in at all. They have a one-seat majority, but still they don't care to have Democrats involved. And it has a lot of MAGA goodies, cuts to certain programs that we think are vitally important. I mean, the House Democrats have said that they're not going to support it. That's good. But the Republicans still need 7 Democrats in the House to overcome in the Senate to overcome the filibuster. What do you think? Shut it down? Just let it shut down or agree to some kind of deal where you have to compromise your values?
Yeah, I tend to fall always on the side of don't negotiate with terrorists, and I really feel like that's what we're dealing with. And is there gonna be some like temporary pain? Yes. Already our federal workers are suffering so much from this administration. So listen, I don't want to impose any more suffering on them for sure. But I would say I shared this on my show last week when Jane Fonda gave her Lifetime Achievement Award speech at the SAG-AFTRA Awards. She said, "This is our documentary moment." And she was talking about the people that crossed that the Edmund Pettus Bridge with John Lewis and how they were
Hmm.
willing to be beaten and thought they were going to die that day. And so if
Wow.
we have to take a moral stand right now and suffer some difficulties, I understand that this is obviously taking a toll on everyone. Um, I think that those minor sacrifices are worth it to stick to our moral compass because it has never been more important than it is right now. Never been more important. Let's have a little sacrifice. In the end, the rewards will be so much greater than capitulating and, giving over our hand to terrorists.
When earlier in the show, I quoted from Timothy Snyder's book on tyranny. He said, none of us prepared to die for freedom, that all of us will die under tyranny. And I mentioned when I first read that months ago, I thought it was powerful and I've cited articles, but we're actually closer to actually having to make that choice. Like we're at a unique time in American history for us that if none of us prepared to die for freedom, then all of us will die under tyranny. And it sounds unthinkable, but I really feel we are inching closer to that moment where as a nation, many of us are going to have to make that choice. And I don't mean violent. I mean, just standing up where you might suffer a lot as opposed to Trump now saying, my tariffs, you're going to have to suffer a little so my oligarchs can have a tax cut. That's a different kind of suffering. This is suffering for a nation where so many
Principle.
Americans have given their lives
Yeah.
to fight fascists across the sea, and now we're stuck here. So, all right, well, Jessica, thanks for coming on. I know you're preparing. So again, this Friday, section, it is Now DC, right? And what's the website again so people can go sign up?
Nowmarch.org. Nowmarch.org. Thank you so much.
Check it out and check out Jessica's great show, Lights On with Jessica Denson on YouTube. And good luck with the march. I wish the best, and I look forward to hearing how it went.
Thank you so much, Dean. Always a pleasure to be with you.